Hello everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on which time zone you are in. And a very big welcome to our UAL Research Degrees Open Day. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. Just a little housekeeping for this event. Please note that your microphones and cameras are muted. Do accept live transcription if you require that. That's an option that should be on your screen. And we are using the Q&A function, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen, for you to put questions in there. We'll take questions we can answer quickly as we go. Others that are of interest to a wider audience we'll save to address at the end of the presentations. A brief introduction to the programme that we've got today. Initially, we've got a welcome from Professor David Dunbar, then UAL Research Culture, Professor Malcolm Quinn. Then there's a little bit about application and funding from myself, Jane Nobbs. And then we have a student presentation from one of our current students for you, that's Daniel Beck, followed by audience questions. Now I'm going to hand you over to Professor David Dunbar, our Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Research, Knowledge Exchange and Enterprise, who will introduce himself and welcome.
Thank you, Jane. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and a very, very warm welcome to our Research Degree Open Day at the University of the Arts, London. So I am David Dunbar. I'm the Deputy Vice-Chancellor responsible for all the research activities across the university, and that includes oversight of all doctoral studies, such as supervisory support, personal development of our doctoral students, your experience, your progression, the quality assurance around that. So that I'm responsible for all of that in my role. So welcome again to the university. We are clearly the largest university provider of creative education in the UK and in Europe. And we're also the largest provider of education and training services for creative professionals across the United Kingdom. So we're very much at the forefront of educating and pioneering research in the creative space. We are ranked top 2 in the world for our research and teaching in art and design, and that's referring to the QS University World Rankings. And this very much reflects the quality of our research, but also the reputation we have both nationally and internationally. Speaking of league tables, just very briefly, very recently, this year actually, we were ranked 19th in the Guardian 2023 University League tables. And you might ask the question, why is that important? It's the first time we've appeared in the top 20, but more importantly, it's about evidence of not just our research profile, but the dedication that we have as an institution to supporting our students achieving their outcomes, their learning outcomes, their career outcomes, their developmental outcomes. So we're really very proud of this recent achievement. We are a university for which social purpose is very much core, and for that reason, even more delighted that we're the 7th greenest university in the United Kingdom, and clearly the highest ranked arts university in the UK in the People and Planets University League. So this very much sits at the center of our core mission, particularly around addressing societal challenges. And on that front, we just recently announced a new 10-year strategy in 2022, and the vision is, the world needs creativity. And central to this is how we collectively use our creative endeavor to address societal challenges, be it climate emergency, social injustices, disinformation in the digital age. So it's very much geared up to how we can collectively use our creativity and our creative endeavor to address some of these huge challenges. I think this is a very ambitious vision for the university over the next 10 years, and hopefully you might join us to help address and solve some of these problems. As a university, we are one university with 6 colleges: the Camberwell College of Arts, Central St. Martin's, Chelsea College of Arts, the London College of Communication, London College of Fashion, Wimbledon College of Arts, and each has their own nuances, but we kind of work very much collaboratively as one university. We have over 100 members of our professorate. That's a body made up of professors and readers across the university. And lastly, on this point, we had the Research Excellence Framework results announced earlier on this year, which is an assessment that's undertaken by the government to rate and assess the quality of research in all the higher education institutions in the United Kingdom. And I'm really glad to say that we are still very much at the forefront in art and design research. By far the largest number of staff involved with this space, but also by far the largest number of staff and equivalent quality of outputs for those staff. So really very proud of our results in the last Research Excellence Framework. And again, why is this relevant or important to you? Because it's a measure of the quality of our research, the endeavor, and also the supporting infrastructure to help our academics as well as our students, our doctoral students, to be able to achieve excellence. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So it's great to have excellence, but underpinning that excellence is a community, and really keen that we maintain and even further enhance our graduate research culture, and how we ensure that when you do join us, you have the best experience you have the developmental opportunities available to you, and that you utilize this. And that may well be that in your college there are some social events, but there are also some cross-college events. There are opportunities to showcase your work. For example, in Central St. Martin's, they have a space for exhibiting work. So, whilst yes, it's important to have the quality and the infrastructure, it's also fundamentally important that also aligned to that is the research community and the research culture that comes with that. So, very keen that if you do decide to join us, that we help you in achieving and realizing your ambitions in every way that we possibly can. So to wrap up, just for me to say that, you're here because you're considering what contribution and impact you can make in one of the research fields within the university. I'm certain you'll find this open day very informative. I wish you the absolute best of luck in your endeavors. I hope you do join us. And then I very much look forward to hearing about your work and seeing how you develop your ambitions with us. Before I hand over, I just want to highlight some pre-recorded material that's available for viewing. So please take time to look at this material. And I'll now pass on to Professor Malcolm Quinn, who's a professor of cultural and political history, and also the Associate Dean of Research at Camberwell, Chelsea, and Wimbledon College of Arts. Malcolm, can I pass to you? Yes, there you are.
Thank you very much, David, and a very warm welcome to everyone. As David said, I'm a professor here at UAL and also chair of the University Research Degree Subcommittee, so I have responsibility for the research degrees activity across UAL. Now, can I have the next slide, please? And the next, yeah. Now, I want to begin with something very primary about a PhD. PhD is often seen as something isolated, you're on your own doing your own research. It really isn't. It's a very social activity, not just within an institution like the University of the Arts London, but the primary social relationship I want you all to think about today is between you and a field of inquiry. And even when you apply, and I hope you do, we want to see how that relationship between you and the other people working in this field, the other people who share an interest in your topic and an engagement with it and have maybe been working on it for many years. What's your relationship between you and them? Tell us about that, because that is supremely important. Now, every PhD has a director of studies and other supervisors who are responsible for the academic progress and support of their students. And that is, as it were, a primary relationship, but as I've just suggested, it's not the only relationship. It's you, your supervisors, fellow students, your field of inquiry, the university, the world beyond. There are so many ways in which your PhD is social with a capital S. PhD projects are normally completed within, for full-time, within 3 years, for a PhD, within 2 years for an MPhil, part-time PhD, 5 years, part-time MPhil, 3 years. An MPhil, very briefly, what's the difference between an MPhil and a PhD? An MPhil is a very good survey of the field. I mentioned that word, those words, field of inquiry. With an MPhil, you survey the field, but you don't aim to make a contribution to knowledge. With a PhD, you survey the field and plus you make a contribution to knowledge in that field. You propose a change in that field. You propose a rethink for people working in that field. You look at the field and you say, what is to be done? And you say, this is what we should all be doing. And then hopefully the people say, well, you know, she or he or they proposed a really interesting change in the way we think and act in this field. And many of our PhDs are practice-based. They are working through their practices as performers, as artists, as designers, and they employ that practice to conduct research. And here's an example. Next slide, please. Anyone who is in London, many of you are not in London, but those of you who are, can go to Trafalgar Square and see the work of one of our ex-PhD students, Samson Kambalu, now Professor Kambalu at Oxford, who won the fourth Plinth Commission and is currently showing his work in Trafalgar Square. Now, Samson's work was initially, his PhD was about the gift in the context of Malawian culture. And this work in Trafalgar Square connects the history of Malawi with London and the legacy of empire. I haven't got time to talk about it. It's a very rich piece of work, but if any of you are in London, go and see it in Trafalgar Square. Next slide, please. Now, I mentioned field of inquiry, and your job, if you apply to us, is to connect with the fields of inquiry of our staff here at UAL. And if you go to the website and look up UAL staff researchers, you'll see biographies and descriptions of everyone's field of inquiry. So just take a very brief example. From the left, we have Donatella Barbieri, whose field of inquiry is the costumed body. Next to her, we have Professor Shahida Bari, who looks at the history of dress and cultural representation in dress. Next to her, we have Heather Barnett, who looks at nonlinear intelligence, collective behavior, and distributed knowledge systems. Then next to her, we have Dr. Maitreyi Bazu, who looks at digital reading, public spaces, and transnational activism. So you see how this works. You look up somebody on the website, you say, I really want to work with her, I really want to work with them or him, and you make an application to work with that person because you think your field of inquiry and their field of inquiry are more or less the same. What you can't do is send us a project and say, well, I just hope somebody can supervise this, because that's not a good way to begin. You've got to try and find a connection with us. And that's why I'm saying, have a look at our staff researchers page. Next slide, please. So we're, as David mentioned, we're one university, we've got 6 colleges, we've got 19,000 students. We're very big, and we have a lot of events, a lot of resources, a lot of things going on that will more than occupy you for the length of your MPhil and PhD. Next slide, please. Now, I'm just going to mention in the context of research, previous slide, please. Previous slide, thank you. In the context of research, I want to mention are institutes and research centers. What's the difference between an institute? Sorry, you're going backwards. Thank you. What's the difference between an institute and a center? An institute covers an entire body of thought and practice. Institutes work at a global level. And the first one I'm going to mention is Decolonizing Arts Institute, which looks at the legacies of colonialism and imperialism and focuses on changing institutional and cultural practice in the present in relation to those histories. Social Design Institute, which focuses on the social purpose of design as both theory and practice. Creative Computing, which brings together computer science and creative practice. And the Institute for Fashion, Textiles and Technology, which looks at the entire fashion and textiles value chain in relation to sustainable innovation. Next slide, please. Now for our research centers, and I'm going to begin with a research center called Doctoral, which focuses on contemporary art research, exhibition histories, and has a journal called Doctoral, which many of you, I hope, will have heard of. It's very prestigious, very well known in the art world. Next, please. The next research center is for creative research in sound arts practice, and it focuses on the interdisciplinary field of sound arts, many aspects of sound arts practice. Center for Fashion Curation, as the name suggests, looks at the theory and practice of the curation of fashion and what that means in a global context. Next, please. Center for Sustainable Fashion looks at design for sustainability in fashion in relation to creative and business practice. Next, please. Design Against Crime, as one of our long-standing research centers, focuses on practice-based research into crime prevention and community safety. Next, please. The next center is the Center for Circular Design, which looks at design activity in relation to building a circular economy. Photography in the Archive Research Center, which focuses on archival practice in relation to contemporary photographic practice, both the heritage and contemporary practice of photography. Next, please. Next is the Center for Transnational Art, Identity and Nation, which looks at the legacy of globalization in arts, the proliferation of biennales and international artists and art practice, but in relation to contemporary questions such as Black Lives Matter, art activism, and the theory and practice of contemporary art and theory and practice of contemporary curation. Next, please. And finally, Fashion Business Research Center, which looks at the economic, social, and cultural trajectory of the fashion industry. Next, please. So our institutes deal with whole bodies of thought and global issues. The centers, as you will have seen, are focused on particular aspects of research that we take forward at UAL. And just to conclude, the centers focusing on research, individual researchers, professors and readers focusing on research. We want to know how your research focus dovetails and links with ours via your account of the field of inquiry. That, above all, is what we want to see, how you're reading that field, how you're understanding it, and how you think you might intervene in the field. Thank you very much. And I'm going to hand over to Jane Nobbs. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, Malcolm. Well, I'm now going to talk you through our UAL offer and the application and route to application and funding opportunities available. One thing I would like to say before I start is that we do consider that your postgraduate research experience starts with inquiry and application. So we really do want your application, your experience of application to be as positive as possible, and we'll be working very hard to enable this. Thanks. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So this slide shows that I'm not really very good at graphic design at all, but I hope it will help you to understand how to apply for a postgraduate research degree at UAL. First of all, we ask you to read the application guidelines very thoroughly. They are on our website and there for you to read, download and check through. And do use these guidelines when you're actually writing your research proposal. There are headings there. It really helps if you separate out your sections of your proposal by using those headings. Now, when your proposal is ready, you can share that with a member of a potential supervisor. But you must have a proposal ready before you get in touch with them, because they can't really advise you without seeing what your project ideas are on how you might improve it for submission. Now, you can find people that you might like to supervise your research, or people who might be able to help you through the application process, both on our applications website and also on our UAL researchers profiles website, where you can search for people with similar research interests to yourselves. You might also like to look at our postgrad research profiles, which are on the website. Here you can see some work that research students are already doing, so that you can get a feel for the sort of postgraduate research that is already taking place at UAL. Finally, when you're ready to submit your application, you submit it through our UAL student portal. Something I would like to mention to you while we're here is that a lot of people who apply to postgraduate research, they have a first degree and an MA, but we understand a lot of our applicants are practitioners and they have very, very well-developed practice. And so we're very open to considering, your practice or equivalent experience, as well as your academic qualifications. And we see this as a very important part of our approach to our applications at UAL. Next slide, please. So I've already had a few questions about this, but I've been waiting for this slide to tell you. So for applications to enter University of the Arts London postgraduate research for 2023-24, we have two deadlines here. One is to be submitted by the 9th of November. Now, apply to this deadline if you are interested in applying for Arts and Humanities Research Council funding. A later application is the 17th of April 2023. Something else I would mention is that we do take applications at different times. If you need an answer more quickly for funding reasons, we do know some funders, won't commit without an offer. And so if you're in that situation and you're way outside of these deadlines, you just need to get in touch with us and highlight that, and we'll make sure we push your application through more quickly. Next slide, please. But Arts and Humanities Research Council studentships. University of the Arts London is a member of the Techne Doctoral Training Partnership. Now, this partnership is set up to award Arts and Humanities Research Council studentships. There are 9 partners in the partnership. They're listed there: Brighton, Brunel, Kingston, Loughborough, London, Roehampton, Royal Holloway University London, Surrey University of the Arts, and Westminster. And there's about 60 studentships a year across these 9 partners. So as you can see, it is quite competitive. And more information about that is on the website there, techne.ac.uk. Next slide, please. So if students who wish to apply for a Techne award must hold an offer of a place that you are on our postgraduate research programme before they can apply, which is why you need, if you're interested in this process, you need to apply by the 9th of November to us. so that you're within the timeline to be considered for Techne. Then once you've got your offer of a place at UAL, which you will get by the middle of December, Techne applications to UAL need to be entered on the Techne portal by Friday, the 13th of January 2023. We will work, you can work with somebody from your college or designated director of studies, potentially likely director of study, to develop that application. So there is support for development of the Techne applications. Next slide, please. So, well, Techne isn't the only source of funding at UAL. We also have collaborative doctoral awards through the collaborative doctoral program. These are awards where the project is developed with a non-higher education institute. Applications for these are often invited early in the year, between January and March. So do keep your eye on our website for information about those. We also do get other sources of funding available to us. These can be commercial studentships, they can be University of the Arts London funding. So I would advise you to keep checking our website, our funding page for funding opportunities, as they do come up in year and they will get posted there. So do keep checking, please, to see if we've got any funding available that you might be eligible to apply for. There's also a guide to alternative funding, and all of this administration is in our Fees on Funding PhD page on our website, and the link is there. Next slide, please. Other funding government funding that is available for postgrad research students is doctoral loans. And these are available for PhD level qualifications lasting up to 8 years in all subjects. It's up to 27,892, and it's not means tested, and English residents, UK nationals aged 59 or under who do not have Research Council studentships can apply for these doctoral loans. And they can be combined with a master's loan. So if you've already had a master's loan, you're still eligible for a doctor's loan as long as you meet the other requirements. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we are here to help and support you through this process. So any questions, please do email us at researchdegrees@arts.ac.uk. We'll answer any questions we can, or put you in touch with someone to give you support. We'll be answering more of your questions later, and we do hope that you'll apply to us. Thank you very much. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of our questions and the end of our open day. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've found it really useful. If there's any questions you've got for us, please do email us at researchdegrees@arts.ac.uk, and we'll get back to you. We are here to support you through this journey, from inquiries, applications, all the way through. So don't hesitate to get in touch, and we will help you as much as we can as you embark on this journey, and we hope to receive your applications soon. Thank you very much for coming today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.